Greetings, aloha, what's going on? It's Mike's.
Gracie.
From livemyassoff.com. We're out here on Kamala Beach. It's raining. Very slightly. But it's a great excuse to wear my Next Level Adventure shirt that I got from my new Patsy Doyle friend. He pulled this out of his sack of potatoes and he gave it to me. I thought he was going to pull it out and get us in underpants, but no, he gave me the shirt. All right. So anyway, we were sitting in our balcony back there, and Todd will actually recognize that. That's the place that I stayed at last time when he first got here, at the beginning of his travels before he moved to Phuket permanently. And this just looked romantic-ish. So rather than just stare at it from the balcony, I thought I'd come out here. What I need to do actually is I need to take off my flip-flops to fully experience the sand between my toes, so stand by. Bam. It's interesting, as I look at this camera, you know, there's a little screen, right? And it doesn't do 100% of the frames, but it's pretty darn close. And I can see myself in it. And for whatever reason, my default setting is not to center my, usually I'm like over here. It's kind of weird. So I had a pretty good night's sleep last night. The nice thing about our hotel is that it's, of course, right on the beach. The downside is that the way they designed the balconies is that when your neighbor is on their phone or really talking at all on the balcony from the bed, you know, then you hear them, right? So this woman was on the phone. It was like a little bit after 11, and I went out there. I said, hey, look, how much longer are you going to be? She said, it's after 11. And it's not like you can't. I mean, it's the equivalent of her basically sitting 7 feet, you know, from where your head is on the bed. So that's the downside. It's also a downside for me because, well, this all is a downside for me. Is because I want to be able to do the Bangkok Strange live stream coming up, or a live stream really from livemyassoff.com with me and Gracie. But if I were to do that there, anytime other than about 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., I'm having a feeling that my voice would bother the natives. So that might not happen. We may find another place to do it. So it's okay. So it's sprinkling, right? A little bit. But in Southeast Asia, this is what's referred to as a clear day. But it's interesting. When we first got down here, I felt, you know, it's a little less hot than Bangkok. But then yesterday afternoon, as we were walking around, it felt like it was a lot more humid. Which, you know, it's kind of like, oh yeah, it's the difference between, say, you know, San Diego and, well, the difference in humidity, let's say, between San Diego and, say, Hawaii. Like in the winter, when it's not super humid in Hawaii. And, but it's more, you know, and you notice it. But this morning, I mean, this is just like perfect weather. And then, yeah, I mean, it's not, you know, there's not tons of sun breaking through the clouds, but you got to remember, like, when I see this in Bangkok, it's all smog and, you know, bad AQI, and here it's just potential precipitation, right? I like Phuket a lot, but it's funny, you know, just as I was mentioning, sort of the chatter, right, that you get from your neighbors, like in a hotel room or whatever. That's one of the other reasons why I signed an additional year lease in the condo I'm at, or we're at, because I don't hear my neighbors, like, at all. The walls are infinitely thicker, of course, you know, in a condo versus an apartment to begin with, but in a hotel, they're even sort of, you know, thinner due to small, you know, quick and easy construction. And, you know, this place is obviously, it's all about the location. But it's, for me, it's actually also all about the people. So what do you, hold on. I can't zoom in, but what are you doing? Oh, are you TikToking? she's got this tripod. She's been doing TikTok. I think she's been doing TikTok. Well, she started it when she went into quarantine. So that's just like about less than a month ago. And 3 weeks ago. And she now has like 1,200 followers, right? Something like that. Are you live?
No.
Oh, okay. Just recording.
Just take a short video and then I'm gonna like edit it and upload it in my TikTok.
You upload it in TikTok, but you're shooting it long ways versus the TikTok way,
But
right?
I cannot do the sideways. It will, you know.
No, I agree. Plus, I think
the phone is heavy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but
You do the
okay.
the full width on TikTok too?
Yeah.
Right on.
I'm fine with it.
Okay. So this is Kamala. Super low tide. It's very interesting how where I grew up in New England, I'm going to describe them this way. The tides in, you know, basically, let's say for the sake of argument, the Boston Harbor. Now, where I grew up, obviously it was Hingham Harbor, Quincy Bay, and then you sort of finally get into Boston Harbor as you travel from south to north. But the tides pretty much on a daily basis were about the same. I mean they shifted, of course, by an hour every day, but the distance, right? In other words, how far low was versus how far high was tides shifted on a daily basis. And then, of course, as you know, it's because of the moon, and so therefore, you know, new moons, full moons, you know, lower low tide and higher high tide. So there was a little bit of a delta there, but for the most part, it was, you know, quite similar. Now here in Thailand, I've discovered that it is very seasonal, because when I was here, even in December, so that's, you know, a quarter ago, 3 months ago, almost to the day, actually. When did I leave? Today is, yeah, so it's about 13 weeks ago I was here. And so the low tides, depending upon the season, are a big delta in low from how they were. Anyway, you know, enough science for the morning. But I wanted to get out and walk around, as did Gracie, which is good. The good news is that after being cooped up in a hotel for 15 days, 15 nights, it's sort of interesting. I mean, I understand why it's like sort of a round number and people understand 2 weeks, and so they refer to it as a 14-day quarantine. It's 15 in ASQ. It is 14 if you are a Thai citizen and go through the government, you know, standard quarantine, which I believe is free to Thais, but the waiting list apparently is significant. I talked to a woman who is part of a company. I went for a job interview, kind of, and what they wanted me for, I think I've mentioned this in another video, was my Canadian passport, meaning that they wanted me to be able to get into Canada, which certainly at the time that we were discussing it, it was the only way you could get into Canada if you were a Canadian citizen. And they didn't, you know, have any of those people on staff, and they wanted to, you know, what you do is you basically get on a plane and you travel there, and as part of you doing it, you get an enormous amount of luggage that you can bring, and therefore you can essentially ship something to someone, you know, via the courier on a plane, you know, within about, you know, from the time they call you and say, okay, here's your gear. I mean, you could do it as quickly as probably about 28 hours, you know, from doorstep to doorstep. Obviously, the short answer is it happens in days. Less than a week for sure. And, you know, it can be expensive, but for example, this scenario was they wanted to transport their dogs. People, specifically Canadians for this one project, had lived in Thailand and left because of COVID, and then they wanted to be able to come back but didn't, and they said, okay, well, that's no big deal, we'll just, you know, they had a house and they had a housekeeper, and the housekeeper was, you know, part of their job, obviously taking care of the house, but they also were taking care of their, in this case, animals, but dogs. And so they, you know, left there. And after a while, they're like, okay, well, this is silly. We're not going to be able to get back to Thailand easily. So we need to get our dogs back here. So a bunch of people got together and they said, all right, well, what we're going to do is we're going to get all of our dogs. And we're going to put all of our dogs on a plane, and we're going to get, you know, and they have a special section of the plane underneath. Obviously, it's temperature controlled, and you can put, you know, your dogs in the little containers. But you don't just do that with FedEx, right? And so therefore you need someone to sort of escort him and that sort of thing. So I believe in doing so, they were going to rent an entire plane, and a bunch of us who had the ability to get into Canada, we're going to travel and take all of these dogs. And I brought this up because in the discussion of it, I said, well, you know, I said, you know, Gracie is in quarantine, and she gets out like at the time I think I was speaking with them, it was like she gets out in like 13 days or something. And she, the woman from the company said, oh yeah, I just got out of quarantine. And I said, oh, and she goes, yeah, I did ASQ. And I said, really? I said, you're Thai, right? Oh yeah. I said, well, don't you get like the free? She goes, oh yeah, but the waiting list, it's a huge waiting list. Yes, it's free, and it's not as nice. So she did ASQ, and her company paid for it. But she said, yeah, so it's 15 days for ASQ, 14 days. 14 days, excuse me, if you're Thai and you're doing the, I guess, standard quarantine, or however you want to label it. But so after after those 15 days that Gracie went through, she's more than happy to get out here and walk around, even if it's a little bit rainy. And in fact, it's stopped completely. So it's sort of nice, and I anticipate it will begin to heat up quite soon. Now this building here, the white one, with sort of the maroon railings, I had considered staying there. And then there's the house that's right there. Actually, I sent that guy a message and I said, hey dude, how much for your house for the night? He gave me a price. I'm gonna have to check back through my messages, because if we were to stay there, I wouldn't have to share my airspace with a neighbor. There is the one building on the one side is a closed restaurant called Salt and Pepper, which is next to our restaurant of our hotel, which is also closed. That is called Mamma Mia, and then there's our hotel. But there is no direct neighbor who might be out on her porch on her phone. And honestly, she wasn't, it's not like she was like screaming. I mean, when I speak like into this camera, I'm being infinitely louder right now. Well, not infinitely. I'm being louder right now than she was. But yeah, they have this sign here, and of course the whole thing's in English. So I'm like, okay, well, this is not going to be the cheapest beachfront house. But the last time I spoke with him, I remember sort of leaving the conversation with, okay, well, I'll get back down to Phuket. And of course, this was in mid-December, when I thought, oh, I'll just come back in a few days. And then we were our, whatever, second, third, however, nth wave that we were experiencing due to the fish market in, oh, so maybe I emailed him. I'll have to look back through my email and or send him a message. But yeah, this looked kind of nice. They keep it up for sure. And it's got like a 2-floor thing, so I believe that the bottom floor was, you know, just a little bit less expensive than the top one. And I believe they're like 2 bedrooms, something like 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom. Anyway, all I can recall is that I left the conversation with, yeah, I should definitely connect with this person when I get back. It'd be cool to stay there. And I completely forgot about it until just now. So thank you for allowing me to blither and blather for this amount of time, such that I was able to remember that beach house. Anyway, I just wanted to check in with you guys this morning. Gracie's off. She's either doing TikTok or she's doing Facebook Live. She's also, because she has over 1,000 subscribers, right? Or not, what do you call them? Followers on TikTok. And so she went live yesterday. We went live for about, I think it was 20 minutes. And she was able to invite me on her TikTok. I had to request, I think, to go on there. And then there's some degree of, oh yeah, you can request, but you can really request it from this, you know, content creator. If you buy coins, I guess there's TikTok coins that you can purchase. And I'm like, oh, okay, so this is the revenue model. because I don't necessarily know if there's advertising on TikTok, but anyway, that's another thing that we'll discover as far as having fun with technology. But with that, it's Mike's and Gracie way off in the distance from livemyassoff.com saying I hope you're living the dream, because if you're not living the dream, then there's a high likelihood that when it was raining out a little bit, you were just like, nah, I'm not gonna bother going outside. And I highly encourage you to do that. Because when I go outside when it's starting to rain a little bit, it seems like magically the rain goes away. So I guess I have a superpower, mainly because I'm on a next level adventure with Patsy's Oil. Talk to you guys soon. Ciao. They walked right over it. All right, hold on. Now let's just run from this side.